My name is Caroline Whitman, and for the longest time, I believed I was living in a fairy tale. At 38, I was a published author, living in a Manhattan brownstone with my husband Mark, a financial consultant whose voice alone could melt away my stress. He had this way of saying my name soft and slow, like a promise. Every morning began with coffee just the way I liked it and a kiss on the forehead. Every night ended with him whispering that I was his world, and I believed him, every word, until the night everything changed. It was close to midnight when I woke to an empty bed. At first, I thought Mark had gone downstairs for a snack. I rolled over, ready to fall back asleep, when I heard it, his voice, deep, low, deliberate. "She still doesn't suspect anything," he said. My chest tightened. The air grew thick, hard to breathe. I sat up, straining to listen. "Everything's going as planned. Almost done," he continued. My legs carried me silently to the hallway. A thin line of light leaked from the crack in his office door. I pressed myself against the wall, listening. I couldn't catch every word, but I didn't need to. I'd already heard enough. I slipped back into bed, lying still, pretending to sleep when he returned minutes later. He climbed in beside me with practiced calm, pulling the blanket over us like nothing had happened. But for me, everything had changed. My mind raced. My husband was hiding something, and whatever it was, it involved me. The next morning, I moved like a ghost through the kitchen. Mark was still asleep, his breathing steady. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone. Until that moment, I had never once checked our finances. Mark handled everything: bills, savings, investments. I thought that was trust. I thought that was love. But maybe, I realized, trust is just the first step toward losing everything. I opened the banking app. My breath caught. Transaction after transaction scrolled across the screen. $500 here, $1,000 there, $750, $2,000. Dozens of withdrawals over 3 months. Nothing earth-shattering on its own. But together, they told a story. An ugly one. My grip tightened on the counter as I tried to steady myself. Then I heard his voice. "Checking the account this early?" I spun around. Mark leaned against the doorway. Casual, rubbing the back of his neck. But his eyes flickered with something else. Surprise. Just curious. I forced out, feigning nonchalance. "Some of these charges look unfamiliar." He poured himself coffee, gave me a rehearsed smile. "Oh, those? Just a few small investments. I must have forgotten to mention them." He sipped without meeting my eyes. Something inside me shifted. It wasn't anger, at least not yet. It was colder, sharper. I nodded slowly, pretending to accept his explanation. But from that moment on, I watched him differently. Every casual shrug, every smile, every deflection chipped away at the man I thought I knew. That night, I noticed more. He was glued to his phone, always turning it face down, always stepping out for calls. And when I asked about it, he'd give the same answer. "Just business. Nothing for you to worry about." But I was worried, and worry was quickly turning into resolve. 2 nights later, I got my chance. After dinner, Mark announced he was taking a shower. Normally, his phone followed him everywhere, like an extra limb. But that night, for the first time, he left it on the dining table. I stared at it. My heartbeat thundered. 30 seconds. 60. The water still running upstairs. I reached for the phone. Unlocked. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through his messages. Most were mundane. Work reminders, small talk. But then one thread stood out. No name, just a number. The most recent message made my blood run cold. "Send her the Ilium files. Just make sure she stays in the dark." Almost done. I froze, reading it again and again. Her. Was that me? Were the files about me? My stomach churned. I placed the phone back exactly where it had been, careful not to disturb a thing. In the kitchen, I splashed cold water on my face, forcing myself to breathe. Upstairs, the shower still ran. I had a few more minutes, but the truth was already clear. Mark wasn't just lying. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning something. Something big. And I was the target. That night, when he slipped into bed, he kissed my forehead like always. "You okay?" he asked softly. I smiled faintly. "Just tired." Inside, I was screaming. He didn't know I had seen the message. He thought I was still in the dark. That was his mistake. And I would use it. The next morning, as soon as Mark left for work, I called Anna. Anna Prescott wasn't just my best friend from college. She was also a brilliant estate attorney. I had never imagined calling her like this. When she answered, I wasted no time. My voice shook as I poured everything out. The whispers at midnight, the hidden transactions, the Ilium files. She listened quietly, then asked one question. "How much money are we talking?" Close to 500 million, I whispered. There was a long pause. Then Anna's voice returned, firm and steady. Caroline, we need to move your assets now. My knees weakened. I sat down hard on the couch. Are you sure? Yes. If you wait, he'll make his next move. We'll create a trust in your name. Legally protected. He won't touch a dime. The apartment, the savings, the royalties from my books. Everything I had worked for. All of it was at risk. I swallowed hard. I'm in. The next 72 hours were a blur of documents, signatures, late-night phone calls. Anna worked like a machine, pulling in her team. We moved the apartment title into the trust, locked the investment accounts, shifted every asset under my protection. By the time Mark walked through the door on the third day, cheerful, carrying takeout, I had done something I never thought I'd have to do, defend myself from my own husband. He smiled. Thought we'd have Thai tonight. I nodded, taking the bag. He had no idea. The fortress was built. He could try whatever he wanted, but he would never touch my assets again. And I wasn't going to warn him. Let him think I was still asleep. Let him make his next move, because now I was ready. The walls of our brownstone felt different now. Once they had been filled with warmth, laughter, and the quiet rhythm of two lives intertwined. But after everything I had uncovered, they felt more like the walls of a stage. Mark played his role so flawlessly, husband, protector, partner. But I knew now that every line was rehearsed, every gesture calculated. And I played my role too, the oblivious wife. I smiled at his jokes, kissed him goodnight, let him believe I was asleep when my mind raced with plans. But pretending was exhausting. Every moment I spent under the same roof with him, my chest felt tighter. Every glance, every touch, I wondered, was this man really capable of betraying me so deeply? The answer came sooner than I expected. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I had stayed home to work on my manuscript when the doorbell rang. A courier stood there, holding a small package. No return address, my name written in block letters. I signed, closed the door, and set the package on the dining table. My hands hesitated before tearing into it. Inside was a single USB drive and a note. For your eyes only. Trust no one. My blood ran cold. I plugged it into my laptop, heart pounding. The folder inside was labeled Ilium Files. There were spreadsheets, contracts, emails, dozens of documents. And all of them pointed to one thing. Mark was systematically transferring assets, not just ours, but from clients too, into offshore accounts. The numbers were staggering. Hundreds of millions siphoned away into a maze of shell corporations. At the bottom of the folder was a single PDF. I clicked it open. It was a letter of intent. My name was on it. My signature, though I had never signed it, authorizing a massive transfer of my assets into one of those accounts. My chest constricted. He wasn't just betraying me emotionally or financially. He was setting me up. If this went through, I would look complicit in fraud. And when the fallout came, I would be the one destroyed, not him. I shut the laptop and pressed my palms to my face, trying to steady my breathing. My mind screamed for answers. Who sent me this? Why? How much time do I have before Mark makes his move? When I told Anna, she was silent for a long moment. Then she said, Caroline, this is bigger than I thought. He's not just after your money. He's building a noose around your neck. I felt my hands shake as I gripped the phone tighter. What do I do? You need evidence. Enough to expose him if he tries to drag you down. And you can't let him suspect you know. The words settled over me like a cloak. Evidence, proof, a way out. So I became an actress in my own home. By day, I was still his wife, smiling, cooking, pretending to write while my heart raced. By night, when he slept, I dug deeper. I copied files from his office computer, took pictures of documents, cataloged every suspicious call and message. Each discovery cut deeper. Offshore transfers, fake signatures, conversations with names I didn't recognize. But one name appeared over and over. Elias Ward. The more I saw it, the more dread filled me. Whoever Elias was, he wasn't just a partner. He was the architect. And Mark was his willing accomplice. Weeks passed. My secret folder grew thicker, my mask harder to wear. But then, one evening, the mask nearly cracked. We were having dinner when Mark looked at me across the table, eyes searching. You've been distant lately, he said. His tone was gentle, but there was an edge underneath. Is everything okay? I forced a laugh, stabbing at my salad. Just deadlines. You know how I get when I'm in the middle of a draft. He leaned back, studying me. For a terrifying moment, I thought he saw through me. But then he smiled. You'll finish it. You always do. And just like that, the moment passed. But my heart didn't stop racing until long after he fell asleep. The breaking point came on a rainy Friday night. I woke to find him gone again. The clock read 2:13 a.m. This time, I didn't hesitate. I crept downstairs and followed the faint glow from his office. The door was ajar. Inside, Mark sat at his desk, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, urgent. "Yes, Elias. Everything's ready. By next week, she won't have a penny left. And she'll take the fall for all of it." My body froze. The words sliced through me. He wasn't hiding it anymore. He was confessing it. I backed away, careful not to make a sound, my heart slamming against my ribs. Upstairs, I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and hit record as I whispered everything I had just heard. My evidence was complete. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the storm outside matching the chaos in my chest. By dawn, I knew what I had to do. Anna helped me contact federal investigators. With the files I had gathered, the USB, and the recording, the case built itself. They told me to keep quiet, to let Mark believe everything was still under his control. And so for 3 more weeks, I lived inside the lie. I kissed him good morning, shared meals, pretended to plan vacations. And all the while, I carried the weight of what was coming. The day of his arrest began like any other. Coffee, small talk, a kiss on the forehead, then the knock at the door. Mark answered it, expecting a delivery. Instead, 2 federal agents stepped inside, badges flashing. His smile faltered. "Mark Whitman," one agent said, "you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." Time slowed. I watched his face shift from confusion to fury to something almost relief. He didn't look at me as they led him away in handcuffs. He didn't say a word. When the door closed behind them, the silence was deafening. I sank onto the couch, my hands trembling, tears spilling freely. It was over. The man I loved was gone. The life I thought I had was shattered, but I was still here, still standing. Weeks later, as the case made headlines, people asked me the same question. Did you see it coming? And I would shake my head. Because love blinds you. It makes you believe the fairy tale, even when the truth is screaming in your face. But I'm not blind anymore. I tell my story now not for pity, but for warning. Evil doesn't always come as a stranger in the night. Sometimes, it comes with a smile, a kiss, and the promise that you are their world. And sometimes, it takes losing everything to finally see the truth.